So glad that you're joining us at Aldersgate Online today. We're going to take some time this morning and we're just going to focus in on Aldersgate's values. I think every once in a while in life, it's just good to come back and circle around our values and say, what's really important to us? Amy and I have two boys. We used to often circle back around and say, no, this is what's really important to us. This is the most important thing. Let me give you an example. One of our values is give your best effort. That's what we always tell our boys, like in sports. It's okay if you lost or if you struck out or what, did you give your best effort? It really came into play when we were talking about grades because I got a C. Yeah, but you should have got an A. You didn't give your best effort. If you got a C and you gave your best effort, that's great, right? So that's one of our values. And so I just want to work through Aldersgate's values today and kind of just reset us. I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this, but we're changing seasons from summer to fall. And so it's just a good time to just reset, refocus, recast some vision. So let me work through our four values. Here they are. Found people, find people. Saved people, served people. Growing people grow together. And grateful people give generously. That's what's important to us. So let's just spend a little bit of time talking about those four things. Let's start with found people, find people. The Bible describes us as lost. It's uplifting, right? But that's what describes us as we're lost. In other words, we are born into a broken, messed up, jacked up world, and in that world, we're lost. Jesus uses some illustrations in Luke chapter 15. There's 3 illustrations in a row. They're all about something that's lost. There's a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son. The lost sheep wanders away from the other 99, and the shepherd leaves the 99 and goes after that one. The lost coin gets lost in a house, and the homeowner tears everything apart to find that one lost coin. And the lost son, the prodigal son, takes his inheritance, runs away early, squanders everything, ends up coming home, and the father runs out to meet the son that was lost, but is now found. And that's how the Bible describes you and me. We are lost, but we have been found. That's what we talk about. Found people, find people. You see, Jesus is that shepherd that goes after the one sheep. Jesus is that person who turns the house upside down looking for us. Jesus is that father who gets up and runs out to meet us when we make the decision to come home, to be found. Found people then find other people. Let me give you an example. John chapter 1. If you got a Bible there in your lap, or if you got a Bible app or whatever, you can go to John chapter 1, or you can just listen along with me. But this is the story of Jesus calling the first disciples, at least from John's perspective. And in John chapter 1, in verse 43, this is when Jesus calls Philip as one of his disciples. Let me just read a little bit of it to you. John chapter 1, verse 43. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses and the law and all the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." I hope you see what's going on there in terms of found people, find people. Jesus found Philip. Philip found Nathanael. When Jesus found Philip, he said, "Come, follow me." Jesus found Nathanael and said, "Come and see." And see, that's a value to us. That's what's important to us, is that when we find that we have been found, we in turn are about finding other people. Found people find people. Let me put it this way. When was the last time you invited someone to join you online to watch? If you visit us in person, when's the last time you invited someone to come in to the church in person with you? When's the last time you invited someone to come and see? When's the last time you invited someone to come serve with you or join a group with you or grow together with you? When's the last time you shared your story with Jesus of how he found you with someone else? Found people find people. Our second value is save people, serve people. If you flip forward in John, go over to John chapter 13, you're going to read the story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. He got up from the table, took off his robe, and put on a towel. I love the way Eugene Peterson says it in the Message translation. He put on an apron, and he served the disciples in the upper room. How are you serving? How are you using your gifts? How are you finding a need and meeting it? How are you plugging into a place of your passion to serve others? Because saved people serve people. Growing people grow together. We believe, based off what Jesus models and tells us, that we were not meant to do this Christian life by ourselves. We're called to be in community with other people and growing relationships with other people, because growing people grow together. After Jesus washed the disciples' feet in the upper room in John chapter 13, he would be crucified the very next day. And all of those feet that he washed, none of them followed him to the cross. Let me just zone in on Peter for just a second. You'll actually find out about this in Matthew chapter 26. You can go study it, Matthew chapter 26. But Jesus is arrested in the garden. He's put on trial. In verse 56 of Matthew chapter 26, it says, all the disciples left him and fled. Now, Peter followed at a distance, and he ends up in the courtyard where Jesus is being put on trial, but he's not very close. He's following at a distance, and he finds himself around a fire. You can also read this in Mark chapter 14, John chapter 18. And I want you to understand, this is Jesus. I mean, this is Peter. This is the one who walked on water. This is the one who was always willing to speak first, go first. This is the one who cut off the soldier's ear when he came to arrest Jesus. Like, this is Peter, but he's following at a distance. And it says that Peter was by himself. That's what we're told in Matthew chapter 26. In the courtyard, watching from a distance, Peter was by himself. The first step away from Jesus is the first step away from the people of Jesus. The first step away from God is a step away from God's people. Peter found himself by himself in the courtyard. And then it tells us that he began to sit with the guards in the courthouse, the enemies of Jesus, those who were trying to crucify him. You see, walking away from God's people leads us to sitting with God's enemies. And then, around that fire, Peter denied Jesus, denied ever knowing him, not just once, but 3 times. Walking away from God's people leads us to denying God himself. It's so important to live in community. Growing people grow together. How are you doing that? Where are you doing that? Listen, if you're part of Aldersgate Online, we would love for you to be able to join us in deeper community, not just plugging in here with us each time you plug in with us, but being part of a community, and we'd love to help you do that. Just let us know that you are wanting to do that, wanting to take that step, and we'll help plug you in. If you meet with us in person, but you just happen to be watching online this week, where are you doing that with you when you meet with us in person? Where's your group? Where's your people? How are you a growing person that's growing because you're growing with other people? And finally, grateful people give generously. Grateful people give generously. When we find that we're grateful, we can't help but give from that generosity. Here's what I believe. I believe there's 3 reasons we are sometimes not generous. And I'm speaking specifically of money right now, but this is not just money. This is time. This is talent. There are lots of places we can be stingy and not be generous. But here's one of the reasons I believe we're not generous. Because we're strapped. We're strapped for cash. We're strapped for time. We feel like we're strapped for talent because we feel like we're strapped or restricted. We can't give generously. Next week, we're going to launch a brand new message series called Unstrapped. And we're going to figure out how to lose all of those things that we feel like we're strapped to that keep us from being generous. But there's another reason we're often not generous. We've never been taught. We just don't know how to be generous with our money, with our time, with our talent. We don't know how to be generous with those things. And so in that message series next week, we're going to be talking about how to be taught, how to be discipled on being generous with those things. And then here's the third reason, and this one's going to ouch. I'm just going to give you that disclaimer ahead of time. But the third reason we're not generous is because we're just disobedient. So either we're strapped, we just haven't been taught, or maybe we're living in disobedience. Grateful people give generously. How are you giving of your time, your talent, and your treasure? These things are our values at Aldersgate. These things are what's important to us. These things are the things we always come back to and say, this is what it looks like to follow Jesus. We're found people that are going to be inviting other people into a relationship with Jesus. We are saved people who are going to be following Jesus' example and serving other people. We are going to grow together because Jesus set that example himself. And we're going to give generously again because Jesus set that example and gave his entire life for you and for me. So I want to leave you with that this week. Just ponder those things. Who are you inviting? How are you serving? Who are you growing with? And how are you giving generously? I love you. Thanks for allowing me into your living room or wherever we're at this morning to refocus on Aldersgate's values. So glad you're a part of Aldersgate Online. Can't wait to see you next time.